Welcome to episode 646 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am talking about haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord, or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting up my shows there. If you'd like to support my show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction, including my most recent release, Salsido Paranormal Experiences, the first book that I've written directly tied to the podcast, full of most of my experiences, all the ones I can remember, and then several from others, basically true paranormal stories from the web. Or you can sign up for the Patreon page and get 1 extra episode per week of true paranormal stories from the web. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So last episode, I started talking about the next location here, and because I ran into a little bit of a problem with my document for the show, but we're going to just start that over again with this episode here. So tonight we are talking about the Whaley House. Again, we're on California, the state of California, for various places there. And the Whaley House. So let's see here. This is first website here, and I think that I skipped this last time, so we're starting here. This first article is from oldtownsandiego.org. I love finding these websites that are sort of they're not your usual paranormal websites. They're more just in general purpose, but they have these articles on the topic and the history of the locations as well. So and the title of this article is The Whaley House, Explore History and Hauntings. So it talks about says basically gives a welcome paragraph here. And so it was built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, and it is also it's basically one of San Diego's oldest brick buildings. Originally, it was not only to serve as the home for the family, but it was meant to house the general store, as well as a courtroom for the area as well, which was later used for just town meetings and social gatherings. So it added to the significance of the community because of it being a courtroom at the time. Let's see here. It talks about how it is rumored to be built on the site of a former gallows. Now, the second article, which I read first last time, part of anyway, didn't mention that it was a rumor, but this one does here. So I don't know what the significance of that is, but it's rumored to be built on the site of a former gallows, where there's an infamous thief, Yankee Jim Robinson, and also Logan, my cat, says hello, apparently. I don't know if that's timely or not, ironic, but this thief met his end at the gallows, and that's part of the reports of, or one of the reported reasons for haunting of the location is that his spirit is still there. So goes into a section on architecture, which we won't really cover here because there's a lot. Describes the place. I would recommend checking out these articles. I'll provide the links in the descriptions, the episode description, so you can look at all the pictures and go from there. So Thomas and Anna Whaley, along with their children, were the first people to live in the house. Fortunately, they as soon as they moved in, they started having problems. There was a fire that destroyed their general store, and later their youngest son passed away due to scarlet fever. So the family remained there, and some say they still remain there. There's some of their belongings are still there as well, and so the paranormal reports have been around for the location for a long time. So visitors and paranormal investigators have come there from around the world. The spirit of Yankee Jim Robinson is said to be there. He's believed to be one of the spirits that wanders around the house. And several family members are also said to be there still as well. And let me see here. People there often say that they hear unexplained footsteps and other sounds. They have sightings of apparitions. And so, yeah, that's the major reports there of activity there. So it's a major landmark. It's on the California Historical Landmark Registry there and the National Historic Landmark Registry. And it's preserved and maintained by Historic Tours of America. It has self-guided tours as of whenever this article came out. And so let me see here. It talks about it is in Old Town San Diego. And yeah, let me see here what more the article has here. So it talks about the hours and phone number and address and all that. Again, as I always say, please check on the current availability of visiting hours and or tours before you go there in any of these locations I talk about, just because things can change between whenever this article is released, or these articles are released, and the present day, whenever that is for you, whenever or wherever you're listening, through that the power of podcasting, as it is. So the second article here is from hauntedrooms.com. This is the one I started to read in the previous episode, and their title is The Haunted Whaley House. So let me see here. Goes over a lot of what we already talked about here. The area talks about the history of the area in general. There were people that settled in the area and near around 1769, but it was incorporated in 1850. The area has at least 250 days of sunshine every year, and according to the article here, let's see here. So, and apparently Old Town is a region, or maybe even a town in the area, within the San Diego area. So the house was, it's a Greek Revival home. And again, as I mentioned in the last episode, Thomas Whaley's own brickyard made the bricks that were used to construct the house. And of course, they had a convenience store and a courtroom, and as well as a theater, according to this article here. So it talks about the gallows and the story of Robinson there. So says that Thomas, going on to the family here, Thomas Whaley was a native of New York, and he went to California to do business for his father's company. But in 1853, he returned to New York and married his wife, married his sweetheart, says Anna Eloise Delaunay. So, and by the end of the year, they had decided to permanently relocate to San Diego. So Thomas Whaley purchased the land that he'd watched, where he apparently watched Yankee Jim die at the gallows there. And in 1856, they began construction on his dream home. And now keep in mind that first article, it did say rumored gallows, so keep in mind that could be legend. I don't know for sure. It says that the Whaleys, who were had children, sons, Francis and Thomas Jr., moved into the house in 1857. So almost right after they moved in, the family had. So this is odd. Apparently, right after moving in, the family started reporting paranormal activity happening on the property themselves. They would hear heavy footsteps, basically like something like boots, stomping around the hallway and on the stairs, with no logical explanation. People from around town that would pass by on the street would also claim to see figures moving around in the windows, despite the house being empty at the time. The Whaleys tried to explain everything off as the spirit of being the spirit of Yankee Jim Robinson, which they did find frightening, but believed they believed him to be harmless. So Thomas opened a convenience store on the first floor of the house, selling items such as hardware and mining equipment. And the business was successful, so Thomas and Anna were, and as this is happening, their third child came, a daughter, Anna, named after the mother. So, but then in January of 1858, let's see here, Thomas Jr., the son, passed of scarlet fever. So he was only 18 months old. Apparently, he was a baby. But after that, the couple had three more children: George, Violet, and Corinne Lillian. And but then there was a violent earthquake in the area that destroyed several buildings in that area, and the Whaley family had to move back to their house in San Diego. So their other home, I guess they had another home. But once they got back, they had the general store repaired and reopened, and the county courthouse headquartered there in the house as well. So the upstairs bedroom was changed into San Diego's first theater. So you have the house being changed into sort of a major part of the community there. So it says that as time went on, the heart of the community began to shift to the newer part of town. The theater that was performing out of the house disbanded after their operator, their showrunner, I guess, unexpectedly passed away. So also says that business started to fade away for the general store, and the courthouse also moved out of the house. So following an attempted robbery an armed robbery that led to various records being stolen. So for the first time in its history, the house was quiet. And in January of 1882, it says that the daughters of the family were married. So let's going into the history of the family here, and but I want to get to the paranormal part of all this, as we are running down to the last 10 minutes of the show. So even after the last of the Whaleys had passed away in 1953, the family is still there. supposedly they're apparitions moving around their house. And I always wonder about this, and when it comes to that, if you have a family that went through so much in a location for over so many years, decades, I wonder if sort of their idea, various members of the family, if their idea of a perfect afterlife or a good afterlife, a positive place to be, whether it's heaven, if you want to call it that or not. I wonder if in some cases that place would be the place where they lived, and that's why they stay there. So often you hear about whenever there's any kind of reports of activity in the location, the sort of mainstream media or the general idea of TV shows to make it more frightening is that they're trapped there. But I often wonder, is that always the case? It says that today people that visit the location see apparitions and of the family, I guess, and also report flickering lights, hear sounds they can't explain, and have other things happening as well. Orbs and mists appear in the house as well. And this has been captured in a lot of photos. Keep in mind that can be caused by problems with the cameras in some cases. So not that I'm dismissing that those things happen. I've seen lights, I've seen things, but yeah, there can be various factors that can cause things to appear on cameras that are not paranormal. Says that the crystals on the parlor room's lamp will sometimes swing on their own, and chandeliers will also move as if they'll swing back and forth as if being moved by a breeze that's not there. The spirit most often encountered in the house is that of the matriarch, the family matriarch, Anna Whaley. She's seen moving around the downstairs rooms or out in the garden, and she is said to be a warm and inviting presence. So here again, I wonder about that. Often accompanied by the phantom aroma of French perfume. Her husband, Thomas, is possibly a bit less inviting, so he's said to be there as well. He's mostly seen in the second floor, looking down at visitors from the top of the stairs, which, again, you have to wonder, these places that become tourist sites, if you were still there in any kind of form, would you want your house to be a tourist destination? So it says that the couple seems to have been reunited after reunited with their son that had passed away, who is also said to be heard there. Cries and giggles that can be heard throughout the house. So I don't know how that works, but that is amazing as well. There's also reports of a very sad-looking woman, believed to be the spirit of Violet, that stays in the house as well. Many people that have been there have been overcome with an unbearable sadness on the second floor, preceded by extreme drops in temperature. It says that heavy footsteps are still heard on the stairs in the evenings, heard by countless visitors over the years. The home's original ghost is also believed to be responsible for these sounds. And also, here's an amazing one: muddy boot prints that appear out of nowhere on the floors of the location. So it says that these reports have been given by all people basically throughout time, and not just people visiting for tours, but construction workers, celebrities, even law enforcement officials. That's always amazing. So let me see here. Looking at the rest of this article here, talks about it gives a little bit of a description of the visiting hours and all that as well. Apparently, anyone that knows, I guess, TV is familiar with TV celebrities. The let's see here. I lost my spot. Okay, here it is. Regis Philbin apparently was allowed to stay the night in 1964 for his talk show, but left the area before morning after seeing the apparition of Anna Whaley. So that's amazing when you have people there vanishing or just leaving because of things they experience in the location. But yeah, so has talks about apparently investigations that are done there, paranormal investigations, which are amazing. I would love to do that there. I've done a couple of those kinds of things here in Michigan, and they were just neat to see the locations in general. Not even counting anything paranormal, but then you know things do happen here and there. So, okay, so yeah, looking at the chat here, Matt Salah says it was where the gallows were. Stone tape theory doesn't work there exactly, but the land itself could be haunted. Exactly, yes, definitely. So often you hear about new buildings that are put up in locations, and yet there's still reports of things happening there. So definitely that is possible. But yeah, I've been on a couple of public investigations, and just to get to see the places in general was always amazing. And then sometimes you still have things happen there. You can't go in there. I mean, you shouldn't go in there expecting to have paranormal activity when you want it, just on demand, on command, because that's not usually going to happen. But they can still be amazing experiences just in general, just sort of seeing how paranormal investigation groups work. I mean, you're not going to see exactly how they do everything because they're usually not there with the whole group of people. But you get to see some of their technology and all that, and so yeah, I have experiences here and there. And like I said, I probably one of my favorites was my first ever trip on one of these investigations. And I recently talked about this too on another show, on Troubled Minds Radio. I mentioned this story, so I'll just share it again real quick. Not since we only have like 2 minutes left here in the show tonight. My first time I ever went on one of these investigations, it was at an old house. It was an octagon-shaped house, one town over from where I live. And they had, at the very beginning of the night, they had everyone sit in one room in the basement to sort of go over how they did things and what they would do. And then they broke the group up into two smaller groups. And one group, the group I was in, stayed in the basement, and the other went up to the second story, so that there was one whole empty floor between us, so that we wouldn't be sort of hearing each other. In other words, contaminating any possible evidence for each other where we were at. And this was an adult. Excuse me, I can't even talk. This was only an investigation for adults, so there were no kids there. And yet, as we were all sitting around in a circle in the basement with all the lights off, first of all, people were seeing lights in the opposite side of the basement room that we were in. Didn't get to see that because it was behind me, behind where I was sitting. But we heard the voice of a little girl laughing and talking. Couldn't make out words, but she just sounded like she was having a good time. But the problem was, again, like I said, it was an adult-only tour investigation. So, barring just outright faking, it was an amazing experience. So, anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.